Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about the large concentration of Belarusian troops along the northern Ukrainian border, with Kyiv warning of an imminent invasion by dictator Alexander Lukashenko. On Monday, August 26, during one of the largest and strongest Russian airstrikes against Ukrainian cities, Kyiv issued a serious warning about the presence of a large Belarusian military force along its northern border. According to Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko himself, at least a third of the entire Belarusian military force is now deployed on the border with Ukraine, the equivalent of about 20 to 30,000 soldiers, concentrated in three main areas. One of them is in the northern region of Kyiv, near Chernobyl, and the other two between Kyiv and the border with Poland, with the main one pointed to Lutsk and Lviv. According to dictator Lukashenko, the reason for the presence of these soldiers is merely defensive, with Lukashenko saying that it is a protective measure, given what he called Ukraine's aggressive stance in Kursk. In an interview with Russian state TV, Lukashenko said that the Ukrainian invasion of Kursk, which began on August 6, forced him to take defensive measures on his border to protect himself from a possible Ukrainian attack in the same style as the one in Kursk. The Ukrainians simply repeated what they had said on other occasions, that the invasion of Kursk is not intended to attempt to annex territories in Russia but only to remove Russian troops from its border and create what President Zelensky called a strategic negotiating fund. According to analysts following the war, one of Zelensky's objectives with the invasion is to temporarily occupy an important Russian region so that he can use it as a bargaining chip in a possible future negotiation to end the war. In addition, of course, to accumulating Russian prisoners of war to be exchanged for Ukrainian soldiers captured in the conflict. As you can imagine, the Ukrainian invasion of Kursk deeply angers and upsets Vladimir Putin, who sees this attack as a personal affront and a stain on his image. After all, this is the first time in over 80 years that Russia has been invaded, and it is the first time in history that a nuclear power has had part of its territory under foreign occupation. But despite all of Putin's efforts, Ukraine continues to advance on Kursk, with the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense reporting this weekend that over 1,250 square kilometers and over 90 Russian villages and towns in Kursk are under Ukrainian occupation. For Putin to reverse this situation, he has basically two options. The first is to bring Russian soldiers from other sectors of the Ukrainian front line to Kursk, reducing its invasion force at some points. This would give Ukraine the possibility of exploiting these points to localized counterattacks. The second option would be to open a new front inside Ukraine, similar to what it did in Kharkiv on May 10, 2024. But the problem with both options is precisely the lack of available Russian troops. And this is exactly where dictator Alexander Lukashenko comes in. As we know, dictator Lukashenko is nothing more than a vassal of Vladimir Putin, who keeps him in power in Belarus in exchange for using that country as a natural extension of Russia. This was clearly demonstrated at the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, when around 50,000 Russian soldiers attacked northern Ukraine and its capital Kyiv, from bases provided by Lukashenko inside Belarus. No Belarusian troops were used in the attack, but by ceding bases and territory to facilitate the invasion, Lukashenko has become a co-belligerent. As a result, Ukraine is forced to maintain 80,000 to 100,000 troops along its northern border, mostly reserve troops and second-line troops still in training. In other words, Lukashenko and Putin know that Ukraine maintains comparatively weak forces in the north, which could allow for concentrated and localized attacks, similar to what Ukraine did and continues to do at Kursk. Such an attack, this time carried out entirely by Belarusian troops, would be aimed at forcing Ukraine to send at least part of its forces that are attacking Kursk and are defending themselves against the Russian invasion in the east and south to the north. Lukashenko knows that his country is militarily very weak, with an active military force of less than 50,000 soldiers, reinforced by 15,000 men from the so-called territorial force, a kind of border police. With so few troops, armed and equipped with old systems, especially compared to the systems that the Ukrainians currently operate, most of which are from NATO, Lukashenko does not look favorably on his country's direct entry into this war. But, as I said, since it is a puppet government submissive to Putin, depending on the pressure exerted by the Kremlin, Lukashenko will have no other alternative but to give in, opening a new front in northern Ukraine just to try to distract the Ukrainians and also as a way of partially avenging the Ukrainian invasion of Kursk. Ukraine knows this, with the Ukrainian government saying on Monday, August 26, that if Belarusian troops attack, all Belarusian bases and command and communication centers located along the border will be destroyed by Ukrainian weapons and missiles. The same weapons and missiles that have been holding back the advance of what was once considered the second largest military power in the world for more than 2.5 years. Now it remains to be seen whether Lukashenko will really take the risk. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bells so you don't miss any news.